maybe you would like to do your PhD in this field. Well, immediately I went to the library and sure enough I found those papers, Porter, Carlos, and Sharma. This was a fascinating paper. I am a physicist, so I knew those loads of classical mechanics. Suddenly you can do something in real life. It was really fascinating. And I did my PhD was essentially in classical mechanics. I did all kind of that's not important what I did really. It's not related to what's. Anyhow, during that time, I needed also the computer, and the bigger the better. And Varsha needed a computer, probably the bigger the better. And the best one outside the army you could get was in the Weizmann Institute. With those computers, there's another famous name is associated, is Peckeris. Maybe some of you heard about it, I'm sure you heard, maybe the physicist heard. But Peckeris was a kind of a physicist, a mathematician. He was associated with the eigenfunctions, the Morse potential. That's what it was. He was the one, in those days, we are talking about now 40s maybe, 30s, 40s or so. So he was the first one to develop the analytic expression for the eigenfunction for Morse potential. That's what Peckeris. So he was already prepared psychologically for computers, so he initiated this whole idea of bringing computers into the Weizmann Institute. And during that time, they built a computer which is called the Golem. The Golem is very famous because it was built in Israel, which is really exceptional. Where could you build computers in those? Maybe Iliad is true. It was at the same time as Iliad. I think Iliad was at the end of the 40s, beginning of the 50s, something associated with the World War because of that. And the Golem and those people, some of them, Peckeris managed to recruit to Israel, to bring them into Israel, and they helped to build. And they constructed some engineers, material engineers, the Golem. But so we started. So I was not working on the Golem. I was working still with the computers of the army. But I believe Warschau and Schneer and all in the Weizmann, they had their own computers, which were reasonably good. Later on, they started buying computers like everybody else from the United States. So that was, anyhow, that's what brought in Warschau. Hani Hagler, I don't know why he came to Israel. He probably thought it could be interested. So this was a group that Schneer had. There were two, as far as I remember, maybe I'm doing wrong, it was the Warschau army. And then they were joined by Mike Levitt, who came in. I didn't know this story, that he was sent by the Cambridge people to learn this thing. There was another guy, strange guy from Denmark, you remember him? He also came in from Copenhagen, I think, to study the method of Schneer. So Schneer was quite famous in these things, and people wanted to understand what he was doing. And that's really what the whole thing started. And then one day in '68, I remember that very well, showed up in Israel Martin Karpus. So he was on sabbatical from Harvard. Of course, this was an exceptional thing, the person of this level. Aaron Cooperman came from Caltech at that time exactly. So both of them were in the group associated with Schneer, the group of Schneer. And that's what it was in those days. Karpus learned how to do those things from Schneer. Then after Warschau finished the PD, he took it to Harvard. And Aaron Cooperman was at a different time. So that's how
he took you.
He took me. He took me. I was at Caltech for about 2 years. So,
but just to interject, Cooperman, Karpus, and Marcus, all three of them were in University of Illinois before they went in three different directions.
That's true. All three of them were in Illinois. And I must add here a point, maybe a Jewish point. They're all Jews. and they were all suffering very much in Illinois. Actually, I know that Aaron was telling me, Aaron Cooperman was always telling about, and his wife were always telling about how anti-Semitic the people were in Illinois, and actually forced those people to leave, finally to leave also Illinois. And they lost the best people there. Carlos, you know, Columbia, and then Harvard, Marcus, Attack, so all the three of them, just to tell you something about this aspect. You have to remember that too. So I don't think I have much more to add. Of course, I don't know anything about this chemistry, and I looked at it always. I was wondering what are those people are doing. They're playing there with potential. Sounded to me like also strange. So the physicists were not the only one who thought that what they are doing is maybe a little bit strange. Let's say I was also among them because there was no quantum mechanics in it. There was no big mathematics in it. So you wonder what could be so interesting. Well, it turns out, even if it's not so interesting, it brings finally a Nobel Prize.
Are there any questions? Either Professor Sathyamurthy or Professor Michael?
If there are no more questions, we would like to thank Professor Sathyamurthy, Professor Michael Ware, Mrs. Ware, and Mrs. Subnam Khan for taking part in the campaign celebrations. And now I would like to invite Pradeep to give Professor Sathyamurthy a small memento from the Curie Club.
But you don't give memento to your right? So, may I now present this on behalf of the Curie Club. With all three of them.
We have a memento for why. We have a memento
So we have our event was to start off today, post-dinner. So the first event is Descriptive Writing, which is scheduled for 9 p.m. and we have Justin scheduled